Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is a sales expert, former home shopping network pitchman, and the author of the business nonfiction book, The Silent Salesmen, Guaranteed Strategies for Increasing Sales and Profits Using Promotional Products. His name is Mitch Carson, and my interview with Mitch will follow the note-taking sounds. Mitch Carson, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Glad to be here, Aaron. Thank you.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, my name is Mitch Carson, and I have been in the direct marketing space for more than 3 decades. I've written 18 books, one which was published by John Wiley & Sons and translated also into German. So they were bestsellers in the U.S. and Germany back in 2008. I have since written many books, none of which were published for good reasons, which I'll happily explain during the interview. I'm a former pitchman on Home Shopping Network in the 90s, did that for 3 years, sold other people's products on live television. I've traveled the world as a speaker, been on stages in 63 countries, and have produced personally over 2,000 events, live events in person around the world.
My next 2 questions are about the Silent Salesman. Without spoiling too much of the Silent Salesman, Guaranteed Strategies for Increasing Sales and Profits Using Promotional Products, what is it about?
Selling silently, and it isn't silent salesman, it's silent salesmen, MEN. In the world of promotional products, because I own an agency, which I sold back in 2008, but for much of my career, I owned an advertising agency, and we had a division which focused on promotional products. And I found that their shelf life was much greater than television, much greater than billboards, much greater than most other advertising platforms. Because let's say if you drop off a scratch or a Post-it note with your logo and or company phone number, name, website on it, people use Post-its to this day, even in our digital world. You'll find Post-its everywhere, even on their computer screen. And when people are ready to buy, they'll buy. And they sell constantly, buying the real estate in the mind of the consumer with that Post-it note. And it's as simple as a coffee mug. People drink coffee in America, hence the reason Starbucks is so successful. If you have your information logoed on this coffee mug that you have given away, it's a quality product that it's sitting on the desk. It all doubles as a pen caddy, and the name is staring at them all the time. And let's just say your service is you're a dentist. Who do you think is going to be called who's got the Post-it pad with Dr. Smith Dentistry and has got the coffee mug that he's been staring at every single day for 8 hours as it sits on his desk, he's sipping his coffee? So when it comes around, when he's in pain, is he going to go to the yellow pages? Is he going to go to the internet? Is he going to call a friend? No, he's going to refer to what's right in front of him, because when there is dental pain, you don't call 3 people asking for a referral. You go to what is the easiest and fastest. I mean, this is a perfect example of why you're selling silently for when the person is ready to buy. Does that make sense, Aaron?
Yes, it does. The Silent Salesmen, make sure I pronounce that correctly,
yes,
was published on New Year's Day in 2008. Why is the book still relevant for readers more than 17 years after its original publishing?
It's relevant because people will appreciate the value of the content inside. I would say, even though the internet has come into play, people that utilize direct mail, people that utilize promotional products in their mix and give gifts to people, buy value in the brain of their recipient. So if today direct mail is down from where it was, let's say 20 years ago, it's slowly been reducing, but the effective use of direct mail, the effective use of selling silently has not evaporated. In fact, people that embrace it, some of the older methods of marketing, are much more successful than those that think everything is involved around a website, an email, a text. I will greatly disagree with that. if people send out gifts that are valuable and useful, you're going to be top of mind. Those principles are timeless. It goes back 100 years, 200 years, ease of use, especially when someone is in pain. If they've got a problem and you represent the solution, regardless of the marketing platform, you're going to be well considered in advance of someone who hasn't done that.
In addition to the Silent Salesman, you've written 18 self-published books, if I counted correctly.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the self-published books you've written, and why did you write and self-publish those books? Because I understand you wrote and self-published those books for a different reason than most of the self-published authors I've interviewed on here.
There's something to be, and I make these distinctions because one of the things I do is I help people understand how to get their books on paper. Most of my books are in the arena of speaking, direct marketing, and media. And I wrote those books as, instead of having a book in the back of the room when I'm speaking to sell for $20 or $30 or some cases $10, that's the value of me perceived in the mind of the consumer, the recipient, the person that has bought my course or has bought my consulting. And if I assign, and if they can then go to Amazon and look up and see, oh, this book on Kindle is $2.95, what has that done to the value of Mitch? It's diminished it. So I put an outrageous price on these books, and it's only available here. So I have to be in integrity. And these books are available as bonuses if you buy my big package. It's so valuable, I don't upload it on Amazon. So it is a takeaway because I don't want to be associated with every other book that is on the Kindle with a maximum price of $10. I rarely see an ebook greater than $10. Physical books can go up to maybe $20, $30, depending on the market or the category. But I don't want to be grouped with another $30 book if it is uniquely and only available through me if you buy my high-end system.
John Wiley and Sons published The Silent Salesman. What was it like to get John Wiley and Sons to publish your book, and how has the book publishing landscape changed since 2008?
I would say at that time, all right, let me answer the first question. How did I get in there? By referral. There was two author friends of mine, Dave Lucani and Joel Bauer, were both published by John Wiley and Sons, and they introduced me to the agent back then, or the inside man from John Wiley, and his name was Matt Hill. I don't know if he's still with them or not, but this goes back to 2006 because it took me 2 years from book proposal to when they responded 6 months later, to then 18 months later when it was actually on physical bookshelves and in airport bookstores, which is where I sold most of my copies of the books. Today, the perceived value of books that are on Kindle or you buy for print on demand from Amazon were not at the same level as being published by a major New York publisher. And at that time, I poo-pooed anything independently done, written or vanity books. They just didn't carry the credibility. Today, I would say the landscape has evened out quite a bit. There isn't a whole lot of difference between being published with Time Warner Books, Penguin Books, Entrepreneur Press, and the self-published author who's got a lot of reviews. I don't think the consumer looks at, oh, was this published by a major publisher or not? I believe that they look at the book. Does it solve their problem they're looking for? And are there a whole lot of 4- and 5-star reviews? Therefore, this book must be valuable. If they scroll all the way down to look at whether or not this was published by John Wiley or Penguin, Time Warner, any of the big book publishers, very few will do that today. In my day, when I published the Silent Salesman, when that was in bookstores and when I paid for space inside airport bookstores, the only way you could get inside airport bookstores was A, by paying, and B, you had to come from a major publisher. They wouldn't even consider an independent publisher. Today, they might be doing that. I haven't looked into what will be accepted in the airport bookstores at this point. But, the perception has changed, restrictions have changed, and I think there's a huge case for independent publishers today. Quality product is still necessary, but the time to market is obviously much faster than the 2 years I endured from book proposal to finally seeing my book in the major bookstores.
The next couple of questions is going to help our listeners understand your book, The Silent Salesmen, excuse me.
Okay.
Better. The first of these is, what is a promotional product and how can businesses use promotional products effectively to generate sales?
Well, a promotional product is something that promotes a business or a service with an imprint, with a way to contact the person that gifts this promotional product. Most promotional products, let's talk about pens, scratch pads, apparel, T-shirts of various varieties. It could be a ball cap. Could be, I'm even looking around my desk, any type of journals that you want to hand off to a prospective client or to a client as a way of thanking this individual or the company. And they carry an imprint that will remind the recipient who gave them this gift. Because most of the times, if you give a gift like Starbucks gift card to somebody who did something nice, okay, that's great. They drank the coffee, but they consumed it and it's gone. If you give somebody a high-end writing instrument from a nice writing instrument manufacturer with their name on it, they will never, ever forget who gave it to them. If it bears your logo of your company and the name of the recipient, if you customize it, wow, you have swung the bat all the way through, followed through, and hit a home run, a grand slam. Now, it can't be on something cheap, but a high-quality writing instrument with your logo being subtle and their name being prominent, wow, that's a three-pointer.
I should note, if you've seen ads for a company called 4imprint on Golf Channel and some other cable TV channels, they are not a book publisher. They are a maker of promotional products.
Correct. They were a competitor when I was in that business. I sold that business in 2008 to Halo Branded Solutions, which is a publicly traded company doing in excess of $1 billion today. They are much bigger than 4imprint.com.
My next question is, what was your work for the Home Shopping Network like, and did your work for HSN influence how you wrote The Silent Salesmen?
Well, I worked and sold products on Home Shopping Network back between 1996 and 1998. What I found selling on live TV, you had to use features and benefits to sell. Here's this great writing instrument, and you're going to love how it feels solid in your hand. The ink won't smudge, and any document you sign will be smoothly written, and you won't tire out. That's just off the top of my head with that particular writing instrument. When I wrote The Silent Salesman, it was about how to use promotional products effectively. A lot of the metrics that were involved in marketing altogether, direct marketing is measured marketing, are included in the book. And it was also part of my master's thesis when I got my MBA. I used much of that content in my thesis, which I then applied to writing the book. And that's where a lot of the principles came from. And I loved the fact that I was able to put into play everything that I've learned throughout my marketing and speaking into the book and beyond. So yes, Home Shopping Network is an inspiration. It certainly gave me a lot of baseline as to how to sell and tying great, compelling copy into everything I've done since then.
My last questions of these interviews, I got 3 more, are going to be about public speaking and getting booked for media interviews. What are some common traits of successful public speakers?
Preparation. I have seen very few Pros. Now, when I define a professional speaker, I don't mean to offend the people that aren't, but a professional is an individual, male or female or other, who makes money speaking. They are paid to speak. There is another class of speaker that maybe takes a speech class at school or is trained at a Toastmasters group. And those types of classes or groups are great to teach people how to communicate clearly, get rid of the ums and the ahs, and speak for 7 minutes. I look at those as great platforms, but it's not professional speaking, nor is TEDx. TEDx is a platform where you speak for 18 minutes. I spoke at a TEDx once. It was great to tick the box. Was curious about it. I was invited. I delivered, did well, enjoyed it. I won't do another. I'm a professional speaker. I get paid to stand on a stage, and it is my craft. So it's important to understand the difference between a public speaker and a professional speaker, one that gets paid to do it. And, my years on Hope Shopping Network, I was paid to sell. A selling speaker, one who sells from the platform, I believe is the highest level speaker and the hardest skill to master, or the hardest skill to acquire, and provides you with the greatest amount of feedback, rejection, and approval.
How can one build and maintain a strong personal brand as a public speaker?
A couple answers to that, Aaron. One is speak consistently. Second is, and today this has changed, and I don't think it's ever going away from when social media took us by the storm. I thought it was a fad at that time, but now I realize many years later, it's not going away. And it's incredibly important to have the following as a professional speaker: a fully developed all-star profile with LinkedIn, a well filled out YouTube page, a YouTube channel, with at least 10, 12 videos of you speaking on camera, because that's how you'll get booked, because no booking agent's going to want to book you without seeing you first or getting a strong recommendation. They're going to want to see you. And it's important to have a YouTube channel because you're on video. And if you're speaking, you better show that you can speak on camera, that you can speak in front of a crowd, or you can speak on a virtual event, which is another platform that is an asset created post-pandemic or during the pandemic. So I think you have to be armed with having a well-developed LinkedIn page, showing that you are a professional in action, being published. Very important to have a YouTube channel with videos showing the public that you are, in fact, a speaker. And also, Instagram is not a bad thing to look at as well, or a Facebook page. But the two most important would be your LinkedIn and YouTube channels.
I have one more question. What are some of the best strategies someone can use to get booked for interviews or other types of appearances on major media platforms?
A couple things that I'll mention, because that in itself could be an entire podcast interview, Aaron. But I'll give you the two that I think are most important, and then three subsets of that. One, a fully developed one sheet. And what are the elements of the one sheet? A clear headshot and a complete, easy takeaway of what a value you provide to get booked on a podcast. How did I get myself booked on your podcast? Thank you again for asking me or accepting me. I believe we did an outreach to get booked, and I appreciate and acknowledge you. And on my one sheet, you would see media credibility of where I've been interviewed on TV. You will see testimonials, and you will also see the three topics that I can address during an interview. That one sheet has replaced a media package in the past, which speakers had to send out. So you got to have a marketing balance sheet, and it's a snapshot of who you are and what you deliver. Who you are and what you deliver needs to be encapsulated and be on and be clearly understood with a glance. Because you don't have time as a show host to go through pages and pages and pages of content for a prospective guest. You simply don't have the time for it. That same one sheet can be used for television and radio interviews. Make yourself look interesting so the recipient or the host is interested in you. Let me repeat that. Be interesting so the intended host is interested in you. Now, how do you get booked? By having a book. One of the easiest way to get booked is have a book written or get in touch with somebody that can help you get a book done, because that's a unique thumbprint for you. Another option is leveraging media that is already current. If you have a unique angle on artificial intelligence, AI, the eyes are going to open up. Oh, he's got a new angle. When I produced the very first ever event 2 years ago here in Las Vegas on ChatGPT, I sold out every ticket in 2 days. 300 people in the room, and I had to have 263 people consume the one-day workshop on Zoom. That's how much people wanted to learn about it at the time. So I rode the wave of interest. If you can ride the wave of current interest, you might earn a media interview. People are interested in when you are interesting. Now, did I know everything about ChatGPT at the time? No, but I knew more than other people did because I claimed it. I wrote a book on it very quickly, got myself on Fox News here in Las Vegas, got myself on the ABC News, CBS News, the CW. All the channels wanted me because I was first. I was unique. I was different, and I got covered all in 2 days. All in 2 days. And where is the book available? Not through Amazon. You only got it when you attended my live event. And that's how I leveraged the book to my advantage and have used it strategically that way.
Mitch, it was amazing to interview you, and I thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Aaron, thank you. It's been my pleasure to be here. You've got a very clear voice, and you should never give up being a host.
Although I didn't mention this during the interview, Mitch is the curator for a book that has been recently released, The Amazing Authors of Singapore, which is an anthology written by 23 Singaporean authors. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2025, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.